So finally, I would like to look at something called comprehensions, which is a concept you find in Python, but yeah, I'm not sure if I've come across this type of syntax in, for example, in JavaScript. I don't think you have anything that is like comprehensions in this sense, but you have other ways to do quite neat things with lists. But comprehensions is simply a technique you can use to create lists and fill lists with data in a nice way, so to say. So less code and more elegant. So it's a smaller syntax for to achieve the same goal, but we need to keep in mind that if we do something advanced, then using something like this will maybe not be optimal because it can become really complex and difficult to read as you build this on. But if you've used Python before, you may have come across this type of expression, and it looks a bit weird. And if you haven't seen this type of programming style before, but it's really quite straightforward, because this is equivalent to this. So this line of code here is the same as this line of code. So what it does is that it creates a list, and it populates the list with a letter which corresponds to this set of letters, basically. So CODING. So if I print this out, I should see a list of letters in this sense, where each element corresponds to a character, right? And the same goes for here, but this is without using comprehension. But this is called comprehension. It's an interesting name, actually. So if I print this out, we see that I print out CODING and then I print out programming, right? This is a bit different, because what this means is that I want to store some integers, right, numbers, in the range of 10. So it will be I think 0 to 9. And what's interesting here is that there's an actual if condition. So it's actually checking two conditions, or it's one expression. I would say two expressions. So the first one is that x modulo 2 should be 0. This is basically checking that if you divide it by, it's basically an even number, right? And then it's checking if it's dividable or divisible by 5. I'm sorry. Let's try to just use one expression right now and see what happens. So now we see that we get 0 to 468, right? Because these are the even numbers in the range of 0 to 10. But if we add this conditional, right? So if I divide it by 5, I should get 0. We don't actually get anything right now. I think we only get 0, right? So let's see if I add this. If I type 100, what happens then? Then we see that we get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. So what it means is that, yeah, it's basically checking if these two conditions are satisfied, then it will print out the list of numbers like that. So this is kind of what I wanted to show about comprehension. It's an interesting concept that exists. I wouldn't personally overuse it. I think it's good to know that it exists, and if you read it in code, you should be able to understand the code at least. But personally, my preference is to go with something that is quite explicit, because it's easier to follow. In my opinion, it's easier to understand the execution flow reading these 3 lines rather than just reading this personally. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.